Transport Minister Maswanganyi will be meeting with all the relevant aviation authorities today following the grounding of an SAA flight in Harare today. Earlier, the South African Airways flight 025 was barred from leaving Harare to Johannesburg this morning. Now, the South African Airways has been flying to Zimbabwe for over 20 years now. The airline operates some 8 flights daily between Johannesburg and Harare. The move by the two airlines is expected to also affect some international travelers. And the South African Civil Aviation Authority is responsible for decisions concerning air travel. It is not yet known how many more flights will be cancelled between the two countries, but South Africa says that they will continue to engage with Zimbabwean authorities to commence operations. Now, a short while ago, I spoke to the spokesperson, Tladi, on this matter. What is at the core of this issue, which has led to the grounding of flights between the two countries?
Insofar as our airline is concerned, you will be aware that SAA has been operating between South Africa and Zimbabwe for more than 2 decades. Right. For us to be able to operate means that we must be able to fulfill the requirements that are set out by the authorities in any destination to which we fly. In this case, we have been operating as normal for many years. And we were taken by surprise when we learned this morning that as an airline, we are required to produce a foreign operator's permit, something that has never been a requirement all these years. And it is also interesting the manner in which the decision was communicated, the time at which it was communicated, because we went about our normal operations this morning, preparing the aircraft, passenger getting on board the aircraft, and it was only at that time that we received a notification to the effect that we will not be able to operate in the absence of the foreign operator's permit. And what then is the reason for the flight that has now been grounded here in South Africa? We wouldn't like to enter that space. You know, we have become aware that there's an aircraft that is also grounded here. The relevant authorities should be able to speak on the matter and indicate what their reasons are. We do not want to further fuel speculation or to second guess the decision makers in this regard. We are focusing on our own operations, and we were hoping that the situation would be resolved as quickly as possible. Sadly, we have to announce to our customers and everybody who intended to fly between the two countries today that the SAA has taken a decision to cancel all flights for today.
Now, who is responsible for the issuance of this, the so-called operator's license, and what's happening now in that case?
Perhaps this should also enable the viewers to also appreciate the situation in terms of aviation industry. There is a relationship that is owned by governments. In this case, you will say South African government and the Zimbabwean government have taken a decision to enter into an agreement, which is a bilateral air services agreement, on the basis of which the two countries will allow carriers to fly passengers in opposite directions from Zimbabwe to South Africa and vice versa. So that agreement is in place, but below that you have the regulators coming on board, and they will then stipulate what the requirements are for an airline to be able to operate in their market. So in this case, the regulator in Zimbabwe will then prescribe and say, these are the requirements that SAA or any other carrier that operates to Zimbabwe must be able to meet. And at the time when we made their application, we were able to satisfy and meet those requirements. Hence, we have been operating for more than 2 decades.
Now, let's look at the timing of this tiff between the two airlines. There are many people are asking whether this has nothing to do with the diplomatic tiff between South Africa and Zimbabwe over Zimbabwe's First Lady, Grace Mugabe.
I don't know it is something that we can pronounce on, but we have taken note of that kind of a suggestion, which some people would call a conspiracy theory. We see ourselves really as collateral damage, if you like, because decisions have been taken, and us as SAA, being a carrier that has been operating all this time, there were never issues, but all of a sudden, this requirement became on the table as part of conditions that must be fulfilled, and there was never a notice period. It was imposed on us, as I said, as we were about to take off out of Harare.
But now, from what you are saying, then it looks like there won't be an agreement between the two airlines. So are you engaging now at probably government level, at head of state level, at the SADC summit now, which is currently on? Is that a possibility at all?
SAA is a state-owned company, and our shareholder is government.
Right.
We have brought the matter to the relevant offices in government for them to look into it. It is a decision that is not taken by us as airline, but it is the decision to operate. It is the decision that is taken by the regulatory authorities, your civil aviation authority, anywhere in the world. Take, for example, our flights to the US, our flights to UK and to Europe, any other destination for that matter, even some on the African continent. We are required to fulfill and comply with the requirements. And if any of these regulating authorities is not satisfied with our compliance issues, one, they will have to notify us to be compliant, and two, if we are not compliant, then they will take a decision to suspend our permit, which means we will not be able to operate. And none of this happened in this instance.
And you were saying just a short while ago that all flights for today have now been cancelled. But is there any likelihood that flights can resume tomorrow? Do you see that possibility at all, given the situation on the ground?
We cannot rule out that possibility. And at the time when we became aware of this incident, we then activated our structures when we had a look at our plans, and we're keeping an eye on the watch so that we could see a possibility in the event the matter is resolved.
President Jacob